Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. It's Ms. Dubik. Hope everybody's doing well. Glad you guys could join me this evening for some more Scratch. Hello, hello, hello. So I have been seeing some wonderful material pop up on Edmodo. We can check some of those out while our friends join us. We're not going to make a new game today. Someone's asking if we're making a new game. We are actually just going to add to our Pong game. So part of the challenge with programming is not just following along with what I do, but trying to do something on your own. So what I'm going to do is give you guys a certain challenge called a mod or modification, and then show you the solution after you all work with the problem for a little bit on your own. How am I doing? I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. Oh, someone's asking about Josie's game. You know what it might be? Josie's game might be on Imagine on 5th and 6th. Yeah, it's on Imaginon, so you don't have access to it. It's a different one, but I will share it to Winston. There you go. My message is to me. There we go. Do I have my... Oh, you guys can't see my computer screen. I am so sorry. Yes, I have been using my computer screen. So I should always start my webinars with everybody see my screen. Oh, goodness gracious. Thank you. Who told me that? Okay. Azelle. Thank you, Azelle. Yeah, definitely if you guys haven't started with Scratch, it's something that you should be doing to try and catch up. I would recommend doing it outside of class, watching the webinars. Well, definitely if you haven't started with Scratch. If you haven't started with Pong, we're starting with Pong today, so. Do we have to make a game? Yes. As we said before, this isn't for a grade, but for the completion of Young Engineers of Today, you guys are going to hopefully post screenshots of your game. Now, I know if you're on a Raspberry Pi, that becomes a little bit more difficult, but you guys can either transfer your game onto a laptop that has Scratch 1.4 on it, which again, very easy to download, or you can just take pictures of your Raspberry Pi screen. Alright. So it's about 6:05. We're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, hold on. I've got a lot of different questions here. Yes, I do mean 7:05. I'm in the Central Time Zone. I haven't been to a human meeting yet, but when will I get my Pi? Valerie, you'll get your Raspberry Pi at the next meeting. Definitely watch the beginning webinars that you missed, because we talk a lot about what a Raspberry Pi is. And those are on the same, if you go to a link on a webinar, you have access to all of those. If you follow one link from the ones that I post, it actually brings you to a playlist that has all of them. Yes, it is possible to make your Scratch characters pick up objects. It's just going to be a little different than maybe you're thinking. Great. Yeah, your Pi should come with an internet thing. We haven't talked about it, but if you want to post that way, that's fine. No worries that you forgot. Someone said that I'm adding power-ups and stuff. Yeah, we're adding modifications today. So that's what we are doing today with Pong. On that note, we're going to go ahead and get started. So you should have Scratch 1.4 open, and eyes on my screen for a moment. Go to File, Open, again File, at this top here, Open, and then Pong. I'm going to go ahead and open that. You can go ahead and do the same. I want you to bring up your Pong game. I understand it's all on your Scratch project, but we're working on Pong right now, so if you are working on something else, I do want you to make the Pong game. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to go through the code from last week to make sure everyone's kind of caught up on what's going on. So you have the ball. This is where the main function of your script, of your code is. When the space key is pressed, this is like how you can restart the game. So instead of just having to press the green flag each time, you can hit the space bar and it should have the game start over once the game actually stops, which is when the ball is touching lava. So thankfully my game just did that right now. Please be sure and you're watching my screen currently, so I can again press the space bar to restart my game. And there we go. Notice that when the ball touches the paddle, score increases by 1. That's in this next if-then statement here. So let me go through all those if-then statements. When the space key is pressed, these blocks of code before the forever loop are called your initial conditions. It's how the code starts every time. Starts in the middle of the screen at 0, 0. And it points in a random direction. And remember when I'm talking about pointing here, eyes on my screen, there's the blue line, and it's whatever direction that blue line is pointing. So if pointing all the way, directly to the right is 90, it's going to be pointing from 80 to -80. Anywhere between those. So it starts off pointing anywhere between those, and then turns 15 degrees. And actually, we don't quite need that that line there. I mean, it is fine. But now, we originally had it pointing right and turning, so that way it always kind of started in the same direction. Since it's going a random number, this is just like picking a random number and adding 15 to it. So for your code, you guys can go ahead and make this change. This is just an extra line that we do not need anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Typically when you're coding, the shortest code, the simplest, kind of most elegant approach is what you should be trying for. Of course, that's kind of more of an ideal to shoot for down the line, but it's always good practice. Yes, my time difference is by 1 hour, so it's actually 6 p.m. here. It's a little bit of time zone magic. Yes, Mira, there is a way to make the game harder. I'm just reviewing it right now, and then you guys are going to make the game harder. Sure, I will put up a picture of my dog Sandy on Adwedo. It's by request, but does not take much. I love that dog. She's very precious. Okay, so back to the explanation. I was just jumping off to answer any questions. So these are the initial conditions. It's how the game is going to start, because we always want the ball to start in the middle of the screen. Then we get into this forever loop, and this forever loop is going to repeat many, many times a second. So in Scratch, you always go from the top block to the bottom block, and when you're within a loop, it executes the loop one time, and then it starts over, and it's going to continue to loop through this stack of blocks forever, as long as the game is being played. Of course, it will stop if the ball is touching lava, which is the floor, and that stops this script here. And then I can start it again by pressing spacebar. If the ball is touching the paddle, you want the score to change by 1, and you want it to point straight up and rotate between 60 and -60. I should be on my screen, so I'm doing stuff with my mouse to try to explain. So point straight up and rotate somewhere, some angle between 60 degrees and -60 degrees, so that way that you have your ball moving back up and forward again. If it's on the edge of the screen, kind of turn direction and quote-unquote bounce. And this last step, all of these are if-then statements. You know, this one doesn't look like it, but it is. It's just built into the game. So all of these are conditional, right? This stop script is only going to run if the ball is touching lava. This change score, point and direction is only going to run if the ball is touching the paddle or touches the paddle. This bounce, which is to switch direction, is only going to run if the ball is hitting one of these edges. And it's important to notice that you don't have any sort of move blocks here. It doesn't say if the ball is touching the paddle, turn around and move forward. It just says turn around. Same with it if it's on the edge. Every single iteration of this forever loop, which again is going to be many times a second, or multiple times a second, the ball is going to move 10 steps. So this line always gets run. So if it's in the middle of the screen, none of these conditionals are true. It's not touching lava, it's not touching paddle, it's not touching the edge. It's just going to continue, and every iteration it's just going to continue in its path until it meets some sort of obstacle. All right, wonderful. So paddle's pretty simple. When you hit the green flag, it's just going to constantly check many times a second if the user is hitting the right arrow or the left arrow, and it's going to move the paddle depending on that. Lava is our last sprite, and it looks like I added some stuff into the lava script that I was trying to show how a certain mod or modification might work, but I'm going to completely disregard this for right now. Okay, so Mira wanted, how do I do score? Someone's asked, how do I do score? I missed it. Okay, I've got a lot of really good questions. First, I'm going to answer Ella's. Ella, if you, or for anyone that missed score, you go into variables, eyes on my screen, make a variable, and you say score. This is good review because you're about to have to do this again. I already have score, so I'm going to hit cancel here, but you're going to make that variable for all sprites and it's going to be called score. When space key is pressed, you want score set to 0 because the game is reset and you want to lose all the points you had the last round. If the ball touches the paddle, you want to add 1 to score. That's how you add a point. So Ella, go ahead and add that. And Ella, and anyone else that's missing that code, thanks. I will show, Ingrid has a really interesting question. What happens if you put a forever loop in a forever loop? Well, Ella, that actually happens more than you might think. If you have some sort of reset function, you could have something here like when the green flag is clicked. For the entire time the game is run, you want this code repeated. But there might be a reason that you need to loop within this. So I'm answering someone's question who said, can you put a forever loop in a forever loop? And I'm doing this while people are adding scores. Again, scores under variables. You make a variable, set score to 0 at the beginning, change score by 1 after the ball hits the paddle. Okay. Let's say, let me give you an example, Ingrid. Let's say that you are playing the game Hangman, and you want to make sure that your user responds with a single letter. Okay. Now, I'm going to do some coding a little quickly right now. So eyes on my screen. I don't expect you to kind of type along. I wish we had the time for you all to type along. If you want to watch the recording and pause and do it on your own, absolutely, but I'm going to go a little quickly here. So in my game, asking for a letter is just one step. But we want to make sure that the user does respond with a letter and not with a number or with multiple letters. So what this block does is asks the user to input information. So I'm going to say guess a letter. Okay. And then I'm going to check if the length of their answer, I know I'm moving quickly here, but this just means if the number of letters that they responded I'm actually going to say if the length of their answer is equal to 1, right? And I don't expect you guys to be coding this on your own, kind of coming up with this code on your own, but hopefully you can follow because the language is pretty similar to English, right? So ask the user to guess a letter, and if their response is 1 letter long, so length of their answer is 1, and if you notice here, this is called an and block. You know what? Let's just go ahead and focus on just that. So we're going to assume that they're answering a letter and not a number, just because I don't want to spend too long on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a forever loop. So we're going to have the computer ask the user to guess a letter. If the length of their answer is equal to 1, then there are multiple things we could do. I'll say stop this script. So the ball is asking me, because of course I put this in the ball's code, guess a letter. If I guess dog, it's going to keep asking me if I guess yummy. But if I guess a single letter, it'll break out of the forever loop. Now, if someone is playing Hangman, they would have this as one of the steps within their game. And you could have a larger forever loop in which this is encased. Okay, Ingrid, hopefully that answers your question. Their code would look a little different because stopping the script would stop both forever loops. But forever loops, what I wanted to explain here is that these loops, they are used a lot. Loops within a loop are used a lot. So a forever loop is often used to kind of signify gameplay. So as long as the game is running, check to make sure the ball is not touching lava. And sometimes you'll have these loops checking on conditions as well. Those are sometimes called while loops. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent. Yes, Valerie, people could still answer with numbers, and there is a code that we can check to make sure that their answer is a letter. But I think that that's getting a little, I didn't want to continue to investigate that code because we're not making Hangman right now. We are making Pong, so we were already getting a little bit to a tangent. I don't know why you're saying hello, Annika. I hadn't seen that you typed that before. Can we make Hangman sometime? Absolutely. I'm not sure we can do it this semester, but you absolutely can make Hangman. And there's a lot of information online on how to make that. I can send to you at some point my file with the image. Annika, I'm not sure. I don't know. Annika, respond with how your game was saved. Are you using Raspberry Pi, or are you using Scratch 1.4, or are you using Scratch 2.0? So respond with that, and I can try to help you out. I understand this is the second time you've had to start over. I'm very sorry about that. I will try to help you get to the bottom of it. But for right now, I do have to continue with this Pong lesson. So send me a little bit more information. I understand that you're frustrated. We've all lost files. Absolutely terrible. Can I ask you this, Annika? What are you saving the files as? What name are you saving it as? Okay. So I will get back to you. Honestly, at this point, there's nothing I can do to recapture that file. So I can post this game to Edmodo in just a moment. If you are able to either put this file then on a flash drive and transfer it to your Raspberry Pi, or if you have your Raspberry Pi working with the internet and can download it from Edmodo, those are two things I can offer for you. But for right now, I want to get the class started with a challenge. Okay, so you guys see how the score is set to 0, and when it touches the paddle, the score changes by 1. What I want you to add now is a way that when, instead of moving 10 steps, you're going to move a variable number of steps. So we're going to make that variable called speed. So eyes on my screen. Notice how instead of moving 10 steps, the ball is going to move speed steps. But we know that this variable just is standing in for a number. So right now, speed is equal to 0. Well, that will mean that when I press spacebar, the ball won't move at all. It'll move 0 steps, and that's not what we want. So at the beginning of the game, we'll set speed to be 10. Now, I'm going to give everybody about 3 or 4 minutes I want you to try to think about where you could add a line of code so that when the ball touches the paddle, speed increases by 5. Okay? So now, as you play the game, and every time you get a point, the ball is going to start to move faster. Okay. Annika, I'm going to post this to Edmodo right now. And, actually, anyone that wants to access this game now will be able to. Alright, Annika, it's posted right now, so you can download that file and either put it on a flash drive and bring it over to the Pi, or you can download it from your Pi. I'm going to, in just a moment, you're so welcome, and I appreciate your patience. I know that feeling. It's the worst feeling in the world, especially I know you put a lot of work into this. So when I get a moment a little bit later in class, I can try to specifically look up that error. It will also help me if you can type exactly the error that they say. I know you said bad header, but if you could type exactly to me the error that was posted, I may be able to find out a little bit more. When you typed the title that you named your game, that wasn't a red flag to me. That looked very normal, so don't know what's going on, but definitely looking into it. When you click the variable, why does it say O? This up here is 0 and 0. When I click the variable, oh, I see what you're saying. That's because that's what it's set to. So now let me hit spacebar, and if I click the variable, it'll say 10. Good question, Valerie. No idea what you were talking about at first, but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Mira moves faster and faster. That was your idea, so you guys can thank Mira for this one. So if touching... Oh, Mira, I'm sorry, I should have let you. Mira, why don't you tell me? Raise your hand if you would like to share how you found the answer. All right. What can we do?
You put change speed by 5 in the if loop that says if touching paddle.
Great. Change speed by 5. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. I'm going to correct your language there just to make sure no one gets confused. I know we haven't talked a lot about syntax, but a forever loop is a loop because it's going to repeat the blocks of code. An if statement doesn't repeat these. It either runs them if this blue block, this conditional block, is true. So if the ball is touching the paddle, it will run these lines. If this is false, it will skip them. So I know I constantly kind of mess up my words. It's not that. I just want to make sure people can see that distinction. All right. Okay, next challenge. So hopefully now you guys see how you can increase the speed every time the ball hits the paddle. The next challenge is a little bigger. Definitely a little bigger. We are going to add a second paddle, and we're going to do it step by step. The first step, eyes on my screen, you are going to click on the paddle itself. You're going to right click on it, and you're going to hit duplicate. So it's called Sprite 1, and I want it to be called upper paddle, and the other paddle will be called lower paddle. So go ahead and do that now. I want you to right click and duplicate your paddle. I want you to call one of them upper paddle and one of them lower paddle. Of course, I switched mine up, so this one's actually upper paddle. And this one's actually lower paddle. How are they still mixed up? Oh goodness. Raise your hand if you can hear me, please. Great. Okay, apparently I have gone too far ahead. People are still confused with the speed, so let's take a look at it. In order for the speed to change, you need to drag this little block in so that instead of moving 10 steps, it's moving speed steps. At the beginning of the game, the variable speed is just as the same as the number 10. So even though this looks a little weird, it's really just saying move 10 steps. However, as the ball hits the paddle, the value stored in speed is increasing. So the ball is going to pick up speed. Okay. Annika, if they say that there are 0 bytes, I imagine what that means is, let me make sure and download it. Yeah, that, I do not know. I'm not sure. I was able to download it, so I do not know what to tell you. I'm very sorry you're having so much trouble, and I can try to look into it in a little bit. Alright guys, if you make a mistake, like accidentally delete your ball, you can go to Edit, Undelete. Don't press a bunch of things right after you do it, or else I'm not going to be able to help. But you can edit, undo anything. If your Pong ball mysteriously disappeared, I don't know at all what may have happened. If your ball is still up on the screen, you should make sure that it's not hidden. You didn't put hide anywhere. Make sure you have a go-to 0-0 block and hit spacebar. Those are my advice to you. If this is gone, it means it got deleted. And you may have to watch the recording to get caught back up. Okay, raise your hand if you still need time to have the speed, move speed steps. All right. Annika, you can still code, like we're about to code this upper paddle, so you can still try that. Your game won't be fully functioning like the others. I understand that's frustrating. Did you download it just like this? So you can right-click that file, or hit that download button. When I look at the file, it looks like this. The other thing that you could do is, if you have a laptop, you could open this version. Okay. That's okay that you are really late, but we may have to move on. Just, that's fine, but we gotta get to the next part. I'm going to put everybody's hands down. I know that a few of you still have not gotten the ball to move correctly. What I'm going to do, I am going to ask you guys to move with me to the upper paddle. Okay? We can come back to this by the end of class, but I want everybody to get the opportunity to start this mod. So, you should, eyes on my screen, even if you are trying to still figure out the move a variable number of steps, you really only need to add 3 blocks. You just need to change this move block and then add a change speed and a set speed block. But we will go back to that at the end, or you can watch the webinar after class, just for this part, if you need to get caught up on that. But we need to move on. So the lower paddle, what I have is called lower paddle. This should just be called paddle in your game. Right-click it, and you'll see the duplicate option. I want everybody on their game to duplicate the paddle and call one lower paddle and one upper paddle, and kind of space them out like you see that I have done here. Give everyone a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so I have 2 paddles now that have the exact same code. One is called lower paddle. I'm going to deal with upper paddle right now, and I'm going to change it so that instead of starting at y equals negative 140, instead it starts at y equals 140 up here. Now I want to challenge you all to figure out how I would change this code so instead of right arrow being pressed, it moves to the left if A is being pressed and moves to the right if D is being pressed, like WASD movement. So move to the right if D is being pressed, move to the left if A is being pressed. That's how I want my upper paddle controls to work. I'm going to go ahead and do it on my screen, but you all try it on your screen first and then check with my screen to make sure that you have done it correctly. Alright, so very simple change. If the D key is pressed, change X by 10. If the A key is pressed, change X by negative 10. Now, what we got is a two-person Pong game. Very exciting, right? Okay, but just the very early starts of a two-person Pong game. The next thing that I want you guys to do, eyes on my screen, is duplicate lava. We don't need any code for lava. I know it's not the most elegant thing in the world to do it this way, to have a sprite that doesn't have any scripts. We're going to have upper lava and lava. I wonder where both of them are. There we go. So you all should be currently duplicating your lavas. And I added this block right here just to explain if some of you were watching or you're watching the recording, because my lavas were just acting weird. So I wanted to distinguish which one was the upper and which was the lower. So for my upper lava, I made it go to 0, 0. But of course, it doesn't matter which one the upper is or which one the lower is. We call this one lower lava, because we're actually going to change the code so that anytime the ball hits something red, it stops. Annika, if you need to go, or if you're, you know, if you're feeling like you can't code along at all, I do hope that you'd say, I'm going to be looking up your answer just as soon as I possibly can, but sorry, I can't help more than that. Alright, so we have our upper paddle code, and in ball, you know, we didn't have to make that many changes in upper paddle code, and what you're going to see is that you actually don't have to make that many changes here as well. One thing I'm going to do, so eyes on my screen, because this is a little tricky. Well, let's do an easier part first. Instead of if touching lower lava, I'm going to move to sensing, my sensing blocks, and I'm going to pull this whole sensing block off. And instead, I'm going to check to see if it's touching a certain color. Now, eyes on my screen, because there's a very specific way you have to do this. You have to click that color block, and then click the color you want to check for. Okay, so go ahead and try that. And for those of you who are, you know, you can add these change speed by 5, move speed steps if need be. Okay. Again, I just replaced this sensing block. I was checking to see if the ball was touching my Sprite lava, and now I'm seeing if it's touching the color red. The other thing we could have done is checked to see if the ball was touching lower lava or touching upper lava. The OR operator would have worked there. Now, of course, if you want to code so that if it touches the upper lava, this player loses, versus if it's touching the lower lava, this player loses, that's going to be different script. Right now, we just wanted to say that the game ends if the ball touches either lava. It's like you're playing cooperative Pong against the ball that's the computer that keeps going faster. Now let's add for the paddle. So eyes on my screen. We're going to pull this whole if statement out. And I'm going to pull this if on edge bounce back into the forever loop. So I only have my if touching lower paddle in this if statement. I'm going to right click and duplicate this whole if statement. Okay, and then I'm going to add it back in above the if on edge bounce, below the if touching color. Go ahead and do that on your own screen, and then I'll talk about the changes that need to be made. Hey Anna, do you have a question? Yep, the ball won't bounce off your upper paddle. We haven't coded it to bounce off the upper paddle yet. Valerie, that's a great question. Can't you say if it's touching purple? Well, I'm glad people are answering these questions. Margot, I'm sorry your game's not working. I know you deleted the ball. I hope you got the ball back. But let's look at this for a second. So currently, it's not coded for anything to happen if it's touching the lower paddle. I'm going to fix that right now. So eyes on my screen. No matter the sort of trouble that you're having, eyes on my screen. We're going to switch it so that if it's touching the upper paddle, again, score is changed by 1. Speed is changed by 5. Maybe we'll make it by 2 now, or else the game's going to get really hard really fast. However, when the ball hits the lower paddle, you want it to start moving up. You guys need to be looking at my screen for this. This is visual. When the ball hits the upper pedal, we want the ball to start moving down. So instead of point in direction 0 for up, we want it to point in direction 180 for down. It can still move 60 or negative 60 degrees. That's why, Valerie, you can't have it if touching color. Because if it's touching the color purple, if it's touching the bottom one, you want it to do something a little different than the top one, just in the way that it's pointing before it moves. Alright, go ahead and add that, and it should be a semi-working version of your game. And Margot, oh, it's fixed. Oh, good. Got it fixed. Annika, okay, I've been looking at it on my iPad. I don't see any solutions yet. I will get back to you. Margot, can you point me in a certain direction? Okay. Ah, Mira, I like that. Mira has it that the bottom paddle is how you get points, and the top paddle is how you change speed. That's clever. So that you only gain points with some, but it doesn't get too hard too quickly. Now, Leah has a question because her upper paddle doesn't work. Margot, if you could send me a little bit more information, please, on what's not working about your game, or raise your hand and I can call on you and hear about what's not working about your game. Leah, if you take a look at my upper paddle, you need to make sure that when the green flag is clicked, you have this forever loop. If the D key is being pressed, change X by 10. If the A key is being pressed, change X by negative 10. That's my code. Okay. Still doesn't work? Alright. Leah, you have the code that looks just like this?
Yeah, but I think A doesn't work. B is working, but A is not working.
And you have it so that it moves change X by negative 10?
Yeah.
And, okay, are you, on the Raspberry Pi?
No, at the computer.
Interesting. How about you try with another key, like with F key, and see if that works.
I think it doesn't work either.
Okay, are they both in the forever loop?
Yeah.
It's not two forever loops.
One forever loop.
Okay, and it checks first if key, and then it's separate if then statement.
Yeah.
Not interconnected.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I take a look at your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that looks right. My only question would be, that's why I asked you to do F. If you had like a different language configuration on your keyboard, but D looks like it's working correctly.
Yeah, D isn't working correctly, but
A doesn't do. That is so strange. Try for me. Okay, and try W from the drop down. And re-hit the green flag.
I use a space key.
Oh, okay. Still no. I don't know what to tell you. Mike, I do have a question though. So I can't read read those blocks, but it does look like the top block that has the 10 in it looks different than the bottom block that has the -10 in it. Does this one say?
X, the same as yours.
Okay.
I do not know how to change these things to English.
Okay, but they're the same block, right? The one under D is the same as the one for W?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's if, this is if, and it's forever loop.
Right. It just looks like the symbols after the -10 are different than the symbols after the 10. But I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think it's a little bit different.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. You want them to be the ones that say not set X to, but change X by.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Let's see if anyone else has a question. Still doesn't. Okay, my bad. I'm not sure what language her scratch was in. I should have asked. But
it's Korean.
Oh, hey, Leah. Okay, it's Korean. Interesting. I didn't know that you could make Scratch language preference Korean. It's 7. I have another webinar right now. Or I'm sorry, you're right. It's 8. I need to get used to that. So I need to jump off. But if anyone, like Margot, my initial thought with that is that you have separate forever loops that are checking for D and for A. Make sure it's part of this single continuous one. My code is up on Edmodo, so you can download and look at mine at whatever point, and you can rewatch the videos. Have a wonderful evening. I will see you Wednesday. Post any questions to Edmodo. Sorry to leave you guys so quickly, but there are plenty of mods that you can explore with the Pong game, so I hope you guys try some different stuff out. Maybe give each player a score. Maybe have a winner and a loser and have that text displayed. Tons we can do. Have a wonderful afternoon or evening.